How are you guys doing today? I'm Nini FC, this is Blue Lions TV, and welcome to another 4 talking points video after our 4-3 win against Reading. Now in today's video, I am going to be talking about Ross Barkley vs Mason Mount, I'll be talking about Pedro, Kenedy, and I'm also going to be analysing our defensive mistakes against Reading. But before I get into any of that, today's video is brought to you by the OneFootball app. Download the OneFootball app to stay up to date to all the latest news surrounding this year's pre-season, from fixture list news to injury updates to returns to news to everything. If you guys want this, you'll find it in the link in the description below. Now to kick off with things, I do want to talk about Kenedy for a bit. Now Kenedy has been a player that's really taken my attention this pre-season. Of course, at times his quality has been poor. There have been sloppy moments of miscontrol or not doing the right thing at the right time. However, there has been a lot of enthusiasm, hard work, there has been a lot of fun and flair as well, and I do think that there is a player in Kenedy somewhere. It's his first time really showing what he can do playing down that right wing. We've all felt as if that's his best position, so it looks like after all these years he finally has the opportunity to show what he's really about. However though, when it comes to Kenedy and his season with us, I do feel as if that he is going to play an important part as a squad player. Now being a squad player isn't a bad thing, and when you really think about it, when you look at last season under Sarri, when he brought on substitutions other than Ruben or Olivier Giroud, who was really affecting the game? Now this is where things are very vastly different for this season, because now Frank Lampard has guys like Batshuayi, Barkley and Kenedy to rely on. I feel as if that will be the best way to use them. I mean, imagine it. It's a difficult game against a very stubborn opposition. It's the final 20 minutes. Lampard's looking to his bench, he's looking for solutions, he's looking to find something to give us some impact in the game, and he can turn to Barkley, Batshuayi and Kenedy, because I feel as if all three players have a goal in them during those 20 minutes. All three of them will play with that hunger because they want to fight for a first team spot, and I really feel as if this would be a very healthy situation, and I think that Kenedy might have a pretty decent season with us. Now that Frank Lampard's here, he's made the squad very aware that if you perform well, if you do what you need to do in training, then you have the possibility of playing in the first team. And it's vastly different to what Sarri did when he first came. You know, at first he only stuck to his first team players and didn't really care about the second team. Of course, as the season went on, he was a bit more flexible, but still, that was the reality of the situation last season. And for me, Kenedy does represent this positive change in regards to how the squad's being used and for competition reasons as well. Mason Mount versus Ross Barkley. Is this the right question to ask though? We know that both can play deeper in midfield or play out wide or play as number 10s. A lot of us seem to think that only one can play over the other. This makes sense if we're using a 4-2-3-1. If that's the go-to system, but as I've already said, in a 4-1-2-1-2 system, they both can play together, and they can also play together in a 4-2-3-1. They can also play together, and I'm going to tell you guys exactly why. In the meantime though, I still don't personally know what formation Frank Lampard might be using at this moment. I have a gut feeling that he's looking to use the diamond midfield. However, in a 4-2-3-1 with Cover and Jorginho, with Mason Mount, Pulisic and Barkley, that could also be another option. And I'm now going to break them down into two separate formations. As we can see, the diamond midfield option, Mason Mount playing as the number 8 and Ross Barkley playing as a central attacking midfield player as the number 10. And this area is why Ross Barkley is looking a lot better for us during this pre-season. And as I've said time and time again, he has all the space afforded to him. Now Ross Barkley isn't the most complete player, and sometimes, you know, we do need to accept players for how they are. A lot of times we seem to think that they should be doing everything better players are doing, but there's a reason why there's levels of this stuff. Anyway, with Ross Barkley playing here, not only does he have less defensive responsibilities, he has a lot more freedom. And one of the reasons as to why Ross Barkley is looking better is because he has Michy, Tammy making runs. He has Mason Mount making runs off Ross Barkley, get inside the box. Of course, cover does advance up the field as well because Frank Lampard likes to have 3 players between the lines at all times. Let me make it a bit more accurate. Let me have the fullbacks going forward as well. Let me move the team up as well. And when you're Ross Barkley, if you're sitting back a bit deeper, when you see Mason making runs into the box and outside the box, Mitchie and Tammy doing the same things, as well as another passing option in cover further up the field as well, with fullbacks stretching the play, keeping the width wide, then you start to see all the passing options that Barkley has available to him. And of course, with him moving deeper, it means that he's not going to be getting marked by an opponent. And this is why we're seeing a lot more adventurous styles of passes coming from Ross Barkley right now. And again, this is another example of how Ross Barkley and Mason Mount do complement playing alongside each other. Now, as we can see, the 4-2-3-1, and as I keep stressing all the time, Ross Barkley has the freedom and the space, because Barkley is a player that prefers to do his best work off the ball. He prefers to be running into space instead of carrying the ball and progressing the ball. It's the style of player he is. And of course, with Mason, Pulisic taking wide positions at first, they're tasked with moving infields. Fullbacks go up, and now Cover has the license to move forward a bit, but he doesn't really tend to do that, so I wouldn't be surprised to see N'Golo or Ruben taking his position in the future. And of course, with Barkley again, with that space here, people making runs off him as well, because Pulisic and Mason Mount love to do that. They will of course move closer to Tammy up front as well. Barkley has the space, the width, and the time to make those passes. Now, of course, the question is Ross Barkley gonna make the best ball? At times, his vertical passes haven't been as impressive, but he's looking more confident now, and it wouldn't be too hard to imagine that Barkley would be able to find some of those passes in the not too distant future. Still though, Ruben returning could eventually jeopardize Barkley's place in this team, but as fans, we'll hope that Barkley does step up this season, as we need the goals from the mid and every point matters. Of course, once key players do return, Barkley vs Mason Mount for the first team will definitely be in discussion again. But in the meantime, let's hope that their forms continue to grow, as we're going to need everyone to be at their best until the key men return and give Lampard an even bigger headache. Now, moving on to the third talking point, we need to talk about our defensive display against Reading. Now, should there be cause to be concerned? I'm not too sure just yet. However, we did see a lot of errors in the team's shape and organisation. As you guys can see here, this is the team's shape when it came to Reading's first goal. And look at the men that Reading had between our lines. The midfield players weren't doing their job, they weren't getting back in time. The defensive line isn't organised as well. I mean, Zuma here, someone's in behind him. Reading had options, a ton of options, and it's no surprise that in the end they ended up profiting. Now, of course, slice of fortune, great finish actually, but still though, these are the mistakes that you create for yourselves when the team's shape and organisation isn't on point. Some more defensive examples, and Reading with another corner, and throughout that entire game they kept aiming their crosses to the near post or the far post. And you look at this area, we're all, the players are on their man, everyone's doing their job. You're looking like, okay, you think we're going to win those aerial battles. However, I think we need to accept that we aren't the best team aerially. Of course, that is Tomori in defense in the first half, and with Tomori, he's not the greatest aerially. We need to accept that. So, really considering things, I think a lot of us worried about the defensive display mostly for the first half, but you need to consider that that's our B team back line. That's not really the first team back line. Of course, I'm going to be getting straight onto the first team, but yeah, near post, far post, overpowered. You're hoping Christensen will be a bit stronger. Hopefully that's an area he can develop further in his game. Here's another example of Reading getting in behind our fullbacks, and as I was mentioning that point about the B team backline, Zappa Costa is playing as a right back. He loves getting sucked in. He gets sucked in easily every single time. So many balls get played behind him. So again, that's a lot to do with the individual ability of the player compared to, a lot of the team's, defensive ability. Another example of Zappacosta not getting tight enough. As we can see here for Reading's second goal, the organisation isn't good enough. I mean, look, already the Reading players overpowering Aspie. And yeah, it's just not looking too cohesive. I don't know where Luiz is, Zuma is. They haven't picked up any of their men. Don't really understand why that's the case. But it looks like they were marking the near post because Reading were constantly doing that. However, it was a much deeper ball that caught all these guys out. And this could be more of an example of the team needing to get used to a new style of defending set pieces, because obviously Sarri had his own personal methods. Maybe it does take some time to adjust to new methods, who knows, but hopefully this is something that we can improve upon as the season goes on. Yeah, sloppy, caught everyone out. I mean, got sucked in way too easy. I mean, to put Luiz and Zuma at the near post like that, I mean, Tammy losing his man as well. Yeah, a bit disappointing. Now, moving on to Reading's third goal, and again, where is the midfield? Where's the midfield? I mean, poor defensive line, poor defensive shape, caught out in the transition. You're hoping that Jorginho and Corva are going to be a lot more disciplined, and, I do have my reservations on just how well they can do defensively. With Angolo coming back soon, he's going to really help eradicate a lot of these issues because, Kante is one of those players that is going to be in the right defensive position. Again, maybe this is a circumstantial thing. I think the game against Borussia Mönchengladbach is going to tell us a lot more about how this team is going to cope defensively. But again, as with Sarri, we had a lot of issues last season getting this team to become cohesive with their pressing. There's a reason why he was getting very livid and angry. And there's a reason why it had to be completed first. I mean, already, I'm guessing Lampard's approaches are different naturally. And it looks like some of the discipline for some of the players doesn't seem to be as on point. Look, again, what's Luiz supposed to do though? He's caught in no man's land. No one's around him. He's going to get overloaded as well. His best option is to try and play them offside, if anything, I mean, or stick with his man. You know what I mean? It was a very difficult position to defend. And it's one of those areas where you don't want to put your defender in that type of pressure. I mean, that's why teams focus on, defensive positioning and team shape so often. I mean, there's a big reason for that. And to end things with the final talking point, and yes, I do want to discuss Pedro. When I saw how Lampard used Pedro in yesterday's game, he used him in a pretty unfamiliar role, but when you deep it and think about it, it makes a ton of sense. Now, in yesterday's match review, I did mention the fact that normally with wide players and attacking players, the older they get, the less they're able to rely upon their body. So what tends to happen is players with this dimension tend to move more infield. There's been so many examples of this with guys like Schweinsteiger, for example, and Ryan Giggs famously. And with Pedro playing as a number 10, as I said before, the distances he has to run are much shorter right now, meaning that he doesn't have to stress or strain his body that much. He doesn't need to sprint as fast or hard as he needs to. Instead, he can focus on short interval sprints, and I think that could be the most effective way to get the long-term best out of Pedro. We know that he's got a great left foot and right foot. We know that his movement in behind is great. He can find a pass, and I'm just thinking, playing in that role where he has that freedom to run wherever he wants, I think that becomes a very interesting proposition. And for me, it's just another example of fantastic man management from Frank Lampard. The way that him and his coaching staff have fully assessed the strengths and weaknesses of the team. And because they've done that, they found a lot of creative solutions to get the best out of these players. And I think that Pedro playing as a 10 could make sense. I think with Pedro even being considered as a 10, it speaks volumes about what the starting formation may be for the start of the season. I'm starting to feel as if it is going to be a diamond midfield 4-1-2-1-2. But regardless, I know that this preseason he hasn't been the most effective. We haven't seen him play often in the 10 position, so let's give him some time to see what he does. Still, this could be a really smart move from Frank Lampard, and maybe Pedro may have a new lease of life for this season. I need to keep it moving now. I've got a wedding to attend to. It's my guy Zane's wedding. Shout out Zane, congratulations man. Obviously, real talk man, you're doing bits. And on that note, you guys, I do want to keep it moving. Thank you for watching. I'm Nini FC, this is Blue Lines TV. See you guys later.